Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Akerfalk Aventyr 24-hour Vanta Black. This watch is available from akerfalk.se for €472. Akerfalk are a well-established microbrand. They were founded in 2016 and they're based in Sweden. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a leather case, which is housed inside this cardboard box. One removes the lid, and inside we have the leather travel case, which I'll take out and show you. So very aesthetically pleasing, black grained finish to the leather case, and as you can see the front of it is embossed with the Akerfalk logo, and we also have the Swedish flag because Akerfalk is a Swedish microbrand. It has a leather tray that you withdraw from the sleeve, and as you can see the tray is also fully upholstered to a good standard with a grained finish, black leather, good quality stitching around the perimeter, and it is very well upholstered as you can see. Very aesthetically pleasing, good quality, and Akerfalk deserve credit here because they're a microbrand. This is a low-tier piece costing €472, so they could have taken the less expensive and the default option of a plastic or cardboard watch box, but this leather case is very well made and it's also very good looking, so I like it. With regards to the items you get with the watch, you also get this Akerfalk branded envelope, and I'll show you what it contains. So inside we have a fold-out leaflet, and it says, for those who view time and life just a bit different, because Akerfalk specialise in making 24-hour watches rather than conventional 12-hour watches. So this is a fold-out leaflet, and it's translated into multiple foreign languages, including English. So it has the terms and conditions of the warranty, handling instructions, and also details about the purchasing. So it has a QR code you can scan with your iPhone or Android, and that will download information about the piece. Also the warranty, terms and conditions, and the owner's instruction manual. It details the operation of the movement use, which is the Ronda caliber 515.24H quartz. On the back there's space to fill in the serial number, date of purchase, and who sold you the watch, and also some warning instructions about the battery, because the Ronda 515.24H quartz is battery powered. You also get this plastic tag. At one end it says Akerfalk, and at the other end we have the Akerfalk logo, and it says 24-hour watches from Sweden, and on the reverse we have the reference number of the piece and the model name, which is Aventyr 24-hour Vanta Black. And lastly, you also get an additional link. So spare link to add to the Oyster style bracelet, which is fully black PVD coated to a good standard. It's a push pin bracelet, and good to get this included. Now the bracelet will fit up to an 8-inch wrist maximum, but if you have a larger than 8-inch wrist, this full link will suffice. So it will make the bracelet fit up to an 8.5-inch size. Good to get a spare PVD coated bracelet link. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 41.5mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 49mm, a thickness of 12.1mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The Oyster style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 18mm at the 2-button push butterfly clasp. Now if you look closely at the top link of the butterfly clasp, it is actually signed with the Akerfalk logo, but it's very subtle, so it's difficult to read it, but it is actually there. This is the problem with black PVD coating. It is actually hard to engrave or laser etch a signed logo on it, but it is there. But you have to look really closely because the fonts used of the Akerfalk brand logo is very fine. And of course they've had to reduce the size of it in order to fit it across the link. I think they could engrave it deeper prior to PVD coating the butterfly clasp and make it more legible because it is very subtle. You can hardly see it. The 2-button push triggers on the butterfly clasp have nice firm spring-loaded action to it, and they open nice and smoothly. So both halves are solid 316L grade stainless steel, which is black PVD coated on the top side, underside and flanks. Now it's not a handed butterfly clasp, so you don't need to close the left or right hand portion. You can close either one of them, they don't overlap, and I think it's very well finished, but they just need to engrave it deeper with the Akerfalk logo. We have a double dome sapphire crystal with blue tinted AR coating, and the blue tinted anti-reflective coating does an excellent job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the double dome sapphire crystal. So clarity and legibility of the sapphire crystal is very good, and they've made the correct decision by using a double domed sapphire crystal rather than single domed, because a single domed crystal would be flat on the underside and therefore give a magnification and distortion effect when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle. But by using a curved crystal on the underside, double domed, it means that it reduces the distortion and magnification effect. Now, I think this could be improved if they use clear AR coating, because when I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, you can see the blue AR coating has a characteristic blue hue to it. Now, this is subjective. Some collectors like the blue hue of blue AR coating. I think blue AR coating works best on blue dial watches, whether it's blue enamel, matte blue, or alternatively blue sunburst dial. When you have a matte black dial like this, I think clear AR coating works better, because as you can see, when you tilt it at an oblique angle, you get the blue hue. With clear AR coating, you do not get that blue hue. So I would like to see Akerfalk upgrade this to using clear AR coating, because when you tilt it at an oblique angle, you wouldn't get any blue hue. I think it would improve the legibility and the clarity of it. The bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, which is black PVD coated, low profile, coin edge finish to it, and they've done a very good job because there's no sharp tips to the coin edge teeth. Nice low profile bezel, and the top of it has a slight bevel, but it's very large and flat. So they've engraved the stainless steel bezel, and then they've inlaid it with C3 superluminova, so it's a fully lumed superluminova bezel. And this makes a refreshing change, because rather than use a stainless steel bezel which is inlaid with an aluminium bezel insert or sapphire crystal bezel insert, or alternatively a ceramic bezel insert, they've simply made the bezel solid 316L grade stainless steel and just engraved it and infilled it with the C3 superluminova. So very low profile, but the coin edge finishing is very grippy and tactile. You can get good purchase on it with your index finger and thumb. The crown is solid 316L grade stainless steel, nice large proportion, although it is recessed and protected very well by the crown guards, which are also correctly proportioned. Now, it's a sterile crown. I would like to see Akerfalk update this and engrave an A in the same cursive text as the fonts used for the logo, a large A in the same cursive font, engraved or embossed in the sterile crown, because that would enhance it. It would give it a more luxury feel. At this price point of €472, one expects to see a signed crown rather than a sterile crown. But proportion's good, and it is again grippy and tactile like the coin edge crown. Good continuity of design, because coin edge crown matches the coin edge bezel, and I like it. So let's test the bezel execution. Unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. Nice heavy clicks. One can feel the friction, the resistance of the click spring engaging with the grooves on the underside of the stainless steel bezel. So nice firm resistance to it. It feels even all the way through the 360 degrees. It doesn't get tighter or looser, and I like the consistency of it. It's very grippy and tactile. You can get really good purchase despite it being low profile, more low profile than a scalloped bezel or a nailed bezel. The coin edge finishing does feel very grippy, but it doesn't feel sharp with the index finger and thumb. It doesn't dig into the skin. So it's grippy but low profile. Nice heavy clicks. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever. No back play whatsoever. So it feels nice and tight. Let's just check the alignment of the dots on the bezel. One more click. Perfect. So the dot, which is fully lumed with C3 superluminova, perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So excellent bezel execution. Even all the way through the 360 degrees, no lateral side-to-side play, no back play, and perfect alignment. Let's check the screw-down crown execution. So the crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters, which is strong specification. Silky smooth. Feels very smooth to unscrew it, so there's a perfect interface between the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Minimal number of turns required to unscrew it. So this is powered by the Ronda caliber 515.24H, which is a 24-hour GMT version of the 515. So what that means is it has a GMT hour hand added to it to give it a 24-hour GMT function. Now this is a two-hand piece. We do not have a third hand. There's no second hand because this isn't a 12-hour piece. We have a 24-hour dial and also a GMT hour hand. So when you pull it out to the first click position, there is no date complication. There's no date wheel beneath the dial, but there is a GMT hour hand. So pulling it out to the first click position, when you rotate the crown anti-clockwise, the GMT hour hand, which is 24 hours, has a quick set function. So you can rotate the 24-hour GMT hand independently of the minute hand. So if you want to quickly set the GMT hour to the 24 Arabic numerals on the dial, you can pull out the crown to the first click and then rotate it independently and leave the minute hand where it is, as you can see. Works very well, feels very smooth, nice firm resistance to it, minimal backplay. Pulling it out to the second click position is now in the time setting position for moving the minute hand. And as you can see, both the minute and hour hand rotate both clockwise and anti-clockwise. So you have the option. If you just want to set the time conventionally, you pull out the crown fully to the second click and you hack the movement. It is possible to hack the Ronda 515.24H. And although there's no second hand, you can't see it's hacked. It is hacked. So in the time setting position, you can rotate the minute and the hour hand both clockwise and anti-clockwise. Or alternatively, pull it out to the first click position, rotate the crown clockwise. Just bear with me and I'll get it. I have to screw it back down and pull it back out again to show you. Just bear with me. So pulling it out to the first click position. No, that's the time setting position. I'll get it. Right, so you rotate the crown anti-clockwise in the first click position and that will rotate the GMT hour hand clockwise. Now the negative is you cannot rotate the GMT hour hand anti-clockwise. You can only rotate it in the quick set setting clockwise only. But as it's a quick set, it's very quick to cycle through the 24 hours. So it doesn't matter if you go too far and you miss the hour, you can simply cycle it back round quickly, going through the 24 hours again. So it works very well. Pulling it out to the second click hacks the movement. We're now in the time setting position. So minimal backplay. When you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there is some slight slack, and that is a characteristic of the Ronda 515 series of movements, such as the 515 quartz and the 515.24H, the 24-hour version, the GMT version we're looking at. So you have to get used to taking up that slight slack, but the minute hand does respond, so it is a nice, solid, robust movement, and I like it. Feels very good. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. But of course we can't see a second hand, so we don't know that it's now ticking, but of course the quartz is running. Let's test screwing it back down. Instant thread pickup. So there's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Silky smooth, and I like the quality control, the build's quality and the tolerances because the threads interface very well. The pickup is good, there's an instant thread pickup and they do mesh very smoothly. It is a silky smooth screw down crown. 200 meters is strong specification. Right, so let's look at the bracelet and also the clasp in detail. So this uses male end links, as you can see, and they articulate very smoothly. They don't kink, which is good. But however, we do have some slight play in the pin going through the centre of the end link. Lateral, side to side, longitudinal and up and down play. So there is room for improvement with regards to the tolerances. I'd like to see Akerfalk tighten up the tolerances, refine it so the hole is a tighter fit around the pin. They could either increase the size of the pin or reduce the size of the hole, but improve the interference fit. It should be a nice friction fit because we do have some play, as you can see. So they need to tighten up the tolerances. Push pins in the bracelet are a clear cost-cutting measure, and they're disappointing. At this price point in the low tier, €472, one would expect to see screw pins in an oyster-style bracelet rather than push pins. The problem with using push pins is, as you can see, the tolerances. We have lateral, longitudinal, side-to-side, up and down play. So the cumulative effect across the length of the bracelet is it rattles. We've got significant play. This is acceptable when we're looking at a low tier piece below €100. One has to be realistic and expect some cost-cutting measures and some QC defects. But with regards to build quality of push-pin bracelets, they could improve upon this by using screw pins. That would tighten up the tolerances because, as you can see, we've got a lot of play and it rattles. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, the end link in the bracelet articulates smoothly. So the positive is it doesn't kink. It's nice and smooth, but we have play. Longitudinal, lateral, up and down, side to side play. And again, this is acceptable below €100 in the low tier, but when you get to €472, one expects better quality, build quality, quality control and finishing. So it's unacceptable to have that amount of play at €472. And again, every single one of the push pin links in the Oyster style bracelet has significant play, so it rattles. It's a sloppy bracelet. Longitudinal, lateral, side to side play in every direction. Screw pins would tighten it up, and they could, if they want to continue using push pins, they should tighten up the tolerances to reduce the amount of play. But on a positive note, it does articulate smoothly. None of the links kink, they don't feel stiff. Because of all that play, of course, it does articulate freely. I'll just check the other side for continuity. Again, it does articulate freely. Now, the other positive is there are no sharp edges to the top side, underside or flanks. The links do not pull arm hairs, which is good. No sharp edges to the links, and the flanks are deburred and chamfered to a good standard on both the 6 and the 12 o'clock side. So no sharp edges and doesn't pull arm hair and articulates freely, but of course does rattle, so that's the negative. There's room for refinement. Let's look at the 2-button push butterfly clasp. So as I've detailed, it is signed on the top link of the butterfly clasp with the Akerfalk logo, but it's very subtle. They could engrave it deeper to make it more clear. But 2-button push triggers have a nice firm resistance to the spring-loaded action. Both halves open smoothly. Let's check the hinge pins. Now, unfortunately, left-hand hinge pin of the butterfly clasp has lateral, side-to-side, longitudinal, up and down play in every direction. And again, one can be magnanimous about this below €100, but at €472 it is unacceptable to have poor interference fits. The pins in the hinges need to be a tight interference fit. Play is not acceptable. Let's check the left-hand portion pin. Again, lateral side-to-side play, up and down play, longitudinal play, and it clicks, so it's sloppy. Let's check the right-hand portion pin. Again, lateral, side-to-side, up and down, longitudinal play. Now it does articulate smoothly, which is good. It doesn't kink, but it has play and it clicks. Let's check the right-hand hinge pin. Again, we have play, longitudinal, lateral, side-to-side, up and down play. Now, if this were a butterfly clasp on a €100 piece, I would be magnanimous about it, because one has to be realistic and expect some build quality, quality control, and finishing defects at that price point. But at €472, to have that amount of play in the hinge pins is unacceptable. Now, the cumulative effect of this is all 4 hinge pins have play, and of course then the bracelet rattles. Now, my concern is long-term the durability of this, because when you have excess play, when there's a poor interference fit between the pins going through the hinges, with daily use, opening and closing the clasp repeatedly, the problem with the pin being in an elongated hole or being a sloppy fit is it increases the shear load on the hinge pins, and eventually what happens is the riveted ends of the hinge pin fail, or alternatively the hinge pin itself shears, it snaps and fails. And that's why it's important to have an interference fit rather than this kind of play, because it exacerbates the wear, the shear load on the hinge pins. So it's well PVD coated. The top side, underside and flanks are PVD coated to a good standard, but however, I think they've made a mistake PVD coating the clasp, and I'll explain why. If you look at the solid stainless steel case back, they've made the correct decision by not PVD coating it, because the case back is in constant contact with the wrist, and of course this is an area which is prone to wear and tear because it's constantly rubbing against the wrist 8 to 12 hours per day, and of course inevitably the black PVD coating will wear off the case back, so it makes sense to leave it un-PVD coated, right? It's the bare 316L grade stainless steel, so therefore you don't have to worry about the PVD coating wearing off. Wear and tear on case backs does happen. But they've black PVD coated the top side, underside and flanks of the butterfly clasp. Now again, the butterfly clasp is an area that is subject to daily wear and tear, because every day you're going to be opening and closing it and pressing the 2 triggers, and that's going to wear the PVD coating, and of course you're going to be opening and closing it repeatedly on a daily basis, and eventually it's going to wear off the PVD coating and it's going to look bad, because you're going to see the bare 316L grade stainless steel, which is silver, showing through where it's worn off. What they could have done is they could have made the butterfly clasp 316L grade stainless steel, either brush satin finish it or mirror polish it, but regardless, not PVD coated it, because then it doesn't matter about the wear and tear, opening and closing it and repeatedly pressing the 2 pushers. If it wears, you're not going to see bare metal because it's all silver. And you don't have to worry about the PVD coating wearing off, which it is going to do with daily wear. And again, the other thing is, the underside of it, like the case back here, the centre of it is in constant contact with the wrist. So that's going to be rubbing against your wrist on a daily basis, 8 to 12 hours per day, and inevitably the PVD coating is going to wear off the underside of the butterfly clasp. This is why usually brands that use black PVD coating, they do not PVD coat the case back, which is as this case, and they also do not PVD coat the clasps because of the wear and tear. These are areas that are subjected to increased wear and tear. So they could simply update this and use a brushed satin finished 316L grade stainless steel butterfly clasp, or alternatively mirror polish it, but leave it silver, the bare metal, rather than PVD coating it. Right, so let's look at the screw down case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, concentric CNC lathe tool machined, and also milled slots. Now the milled slots are deburred very well, and it's also nicely engraved, as you can see. I'll just turn it around so you can see it better. So I like the concentric CNC lathe tool machining because it refracts the light. It's very well finished. The engraving is very high quality. So we've got the specification, reference number of the piece and the movement, Ronda 515 24 hour. Good to have all the specification on the back, including the reference number of the Aventyr 24 hour Vanta black. So doesn't feel sharp, it's well polished and deburred, so it doesn't rub against the wrist and irritate. It's not a scratchy engraved case back, feels very comfortable. Now the benefit of this being quartz powered rather than automatic is it is a low profile flat case back. It's not a bubble back case back, and this piece is very low profile. Bearing in mind it's 200 meters, it's only 12.1 millimeters thick, so that's the benefit of having a flat case back and also a low profile to the double dome sapphire crystal. So very well finished, no sharp edges to the milled slots, and it does feel very comfortable against the wrist. Now, credit where credit's due, they've made the correct decision by using quick release stainless steel spring bars. Had they used standard stainless steel spring bars, you would need to use a spring bar tool. Now the problem with that is, because it's black PVD coated, both the end links and also the case, with black PVD coating watches, there's a risk of scuffing and scratching the lugs or the end links when you use a spring bar tool, but by using quick release spring bars, that negates the need for using a spring bar tool. So you can remove the bracelet if you want to fit a strap without using a spring bar tool, and therefore there's no risk of scuffing and scratching the lugs or the end links. So they have made the correct decision by using quick release spring bars. And the male end links are a good tight fit to the head of the piece. With regards to the finishing to the head of the piece, it is very well finished. No sharp edges to the undercut to the flanks, and it has a matte matte brush satin finish, which is then PVD coated to a good standard, and every facet of the head of the piece is black PVD coated to a good standard, so there's absolutely no silver areas of it whatsoever. You can't see the base 316L grade stainless steel beneath the PVD coating. It's very well PVD coated. No sharp edges to it. They've deburred and chamfered it. Doesn't have sharp corners to the tips of the lugs, so it's very well finished. The bezel is also very well finished with black PVD coating to the coin edge finishing, so they deserve credit because the quality of the PVD coating is good. I also like the fact that it's matte finish. Often with PVD coated watches, they have a glossy black finish and they do look very shiny. I think the matte finish is very aesthetically pleasing. It gives it a real tool watch or military issued aesthetic, and I think that the matte finish is better looking than glossy finish. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. So as I've discussed, the butterfly clasp isn't handed. You can close the left or the right hand portion of it. They don't overlap, so it doesn't matter if you close the left or the right first. Very low profile. That's the benefit of using a butterfly clasp rather than a flip lock clasp or a 2-button push clasp. The butterfly clasp sits very close to the wrist, as you can see. The 2-button push triggers are recessed, so they don't project too far either side of the flanks, and therefore you're not going to accidentally press the triggers and deploy it. It's not going to pop off the wrist, so it is low profile. The 2 triggers are nicely proportioned. Feels very comfortable. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, but I'm pleased to report I can easily slide an index finger beneath the butterfly clasp and bracelet at all times, so this will easily fit up to an 8-inch wrist, and you also have a spare full link if you need to extend it to fit a larger than 8-inch wrist. So this will fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist with the additional full link added. Now, thing to note is, this is a large head of the piece. It does wear with wrist presence. So, at 41.5, there is a lot of meat on wrist. You can feel the heft of it because it's 158 grams with all the links in the oyster style bracelet. So, clearly I would say, if you're a collector with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you may find that it has too much heft to be comfortable and also too much wrist presence. Clearly it's best suited to collectors with a large wrist of 7 to 8 inches. Now, if you like large pieces with wrist presence and you have a larger 7 to 8 inch wrist, of course you will enjoy the 41.5mm head of the piece. The other thing to note is it's a relatively long case. 48mm is the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug to lug measurement, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. At 49, it is 1mm longer than the sweet spot. So again, if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, you will find a 49mm lug to lug to be too long. The problem with a long case is it does give some overhang. If you look at the tips to the lugs, you can see it is a long case. The end of the lugs does project across the wrist. So they could reduce this down to 48 to improve the fits, because it is a large diameter, 41.5, but also a long case at 49. Really best suited for collectors with a 7 to 8 inch wrist. Now, I think they've made a mistake here with regards to the male end links, because as you can see, the centre portion, the centre link in the end link is a long flat slab of 316L grade stainless steel, and it sticks out, as you can see. Had they used female pivoted end links, that would make the end link in the oyster style bracelet pull snug to the wrist, because as you can see, the angular profile of the centre section of the male end links makes the bracelet stick out, and we get this gap underneath the tips of the lugs, but also the end link in the oyster style bracelet can't articulate, it can't pull beneath the tips of the lugs as per a female pivoted end link. And they could very simply update this. They could change the male end link to a female pivoted end link in the oyster style bracelet. That would make it a snugger fit, because as you can see, 49mm is a long case, and that makes the tips of the lugs extend slightly by 1mm, and then we have this projection of the male end link. So poor quality fit. Female pivoted end links would correct this. With regards to the taper, I also think they could refine it, because 22 to 18 is the industry standard. Alternatively, 20 to 16 is the perfect taper. But this has a rather odd 20 to 18. So we've only got 2mm of taper across the length of the oyster style bracelet. 22 to 18 would look better proportioned, more of a taper. Alternatively, 20 to 16. The problem with 20 to 18 is it doesn't give enough of a taper. It looks very straight and parallel because it's only 2mm of taper from the lugs down to the 2-button push deployant. And I think really 18 is slightly too wide at the 2-button push deployant. Sorry, 2-button push butterfly clasp. So I think a 20 to 16 would give it slightly more taper, and therefore 16mm at the butterfly clasp would look thinner and just more aesthetically pleasing. 22 to 18 is a good taper for 41.5, or alternatively 20 to 16, but not 20 to 18. It looks like an odd taper. Too straight and too parallel, and of course it's compounded by having the male end link which sticks out too far. It's a rather long centre section, as you can see. But does feel comfortable despite being heavy at 158 grams. Now, of course, if you have a smaller wrist, you're going to be removing 3 or 4 links. That will reduce it below 150 grams and therefore make it more comfortable to wear for long periods of time. On a positive note, it is very low profile due to the flat case back. It's only 12.1. And that is with a double dome sapphire crystal, which is nice and low profile. They've made the correct decision by not using a boxed top hat profile crystal, because that would add 2mm of thickness. At 12.1, it is a very low profile piece. So it's a wide piece, a long piece, but low profile. Anything below 13mm is the sweet spot, and it will easily slip underneath the shirt cuff because it's only 12.1. So comfortable to wear if you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, but if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, it will be too large with too much wrist presence. Right, so let's do a wrist shot. Let's do a Lume test, and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So this uses C3 Superluminova on the stainless steel bezel, the dial, and also the handset. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, perfect colour tone match. In daylight conditions, there's a good colour tone match. The C3 has a nice peach tone to it on the engraved Arabic numerals on the stainless steel bezel, and also on the dial, which has printed Arabic numerals, and also on the handset. So the proportions of the handset are good. You can clearly differentiate between the hour hand, which is the GMT 24-hour hand, and the minute hand, which is longer. Good colour tone match, but however, you can clearly see on the Arabic numerals on the dial, there's not as many layers of C3 superluminova. So I think we're looking at 5 to 6 layers of C3 on the engraved Arabic numerals on the stainless steel bezel, and 5 to 6 layers on the hands, because the exciter is glowing very brightly on the bezel and also on the hands. But if you look at the Arabic numerals, the printed dial at the triangle at 12 o'clock, and also if you look at the 9, 6 and 3 positions, you can see those rectangular printed indices have 5 to 6 layers because they're glowing brightly. The exciter looks the same brightness as the bezel, the handset, and those 12, 9, 6 and 3 indices. But if you look at the Arabic numerals, the 24-hour Arabic numerals on the dial, they're not glowing as brightly. They're fading, and they're beginning to fade fast, and they're not as bright as on the dial. Now again, this is the negative of using blue tinted AR coating, because blue tinted AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal has a tendency to dull down the exciter in C3 superluminova. Had they used clear AR coating, that would reduce the dulling effect of the blue tint, the blue hue. I think clear AR coating would enhance the performance of the Lume on the dial and the handset. But regardless of that, if you look at the Arabic numerals now, you can see they're fading very quickly to nothing. So we're looking at 2 to 3 layers or 3 to 4 layers of application on the Arabic numerals. The indices, the triangle index at 12 o'clock and also the rectangular indices at 9, 6 and 3, they clearly have 5 to 6 layers as per the Arabic numerals and the Lume pip on the bezel itself. Hands are still glowing brightly. They are good. They're 5 to 6 layers. But it's disappointing they haven't fully loomed the 24-hour Arabic numerals on the dial to the same standard, the same number of layers, because as you can see, they're fading very quickly. Very simple to get right. They simply apply 5 to 6 layers, and it's disappointing at this price point of €472 to see this kind of lack of performance. If you're going to fully loom the dial, the Arabic numerals should have the same number of layers as the printed indices, same number of layers as the bezel and the handset, and it's just a disappointment. So this is the main negative I want you to be aware of, the main cost-cutting measure. And at €472, one cannot be magnanimous about it. Right, so let's discuss the movement use, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this uses the Ronda caliber 515.24H. So the architecture of the 515.24H is the same as the Ronda caliber 515. The only difference is they add a 24-hour GMT hour hand to the cannon pinion. So it's a GMT version, a 24-hour version of the 515. So it's a quartz movement which is made in Switzerland, and it has one jewel. It has hacking, which is useful, and it has a 45-month battery life, which is very long. Usually quartz movements often have a 2-year battery life, so anything in excess of 2 years is good performance. So this has a 45-month battery life, which is 3.75 years. 3 3/4 years, nearly 4 years of battery life is very impressive. The stated accuracy of the 515.24H is -20 to plus 20 seconds per month. Now just think about that for a moment. That's not -10 to plus 20 seconds per day or per week. That is -10 to plus 20 seconds per month. Better than plus or minus 1 second per day accuracy. Outstanding accuracy. So the Ronda 515 is Swiss made. The quality control, build quality, accuracy, reliability, everything about it is excellent. No reliability issues whatsoever. It is a robust quartz movement. The 515 is a very robust movement, and this is based upon it. It's just the 24-hour version of it with a GMT 24-hour hour hand. So I think it's the correct choice at this price point, €472, to use the Ronda 515.24H. With a 24-hour dial, yes, it makes sense to use a GMT 24-hour quartz movement. Now, the benefit of it, above all else, it's very low profile, much thinner than using an automatic or manual wind movement. And this piece is only 12.1 millimeters thick as a result, even using a double dome sapphire crystal rather than a flat sapphire crystal. The flat case back and the low profile to the double dome sapphire crystal means 12.1. That is the benefit of this being Ronda 515.24H quartz powered. It's a low profile quartz caliber. So good choice of movement. I like the accuracy of it, -10 to +20 seconds per month. I like the 45-month or 3.75-year battery life, and also like it's got hacking. And of course, the main benefit of it is it's got a quick set function to it. When you pull out the crown and rotate it anti-clockwise, you can independently set the GMT hour hand. Now, it does take some getting used to, because if you're used to 12-hour dials, you're used to looking at the hour hand pointing to the 12 hours. So it does take some getting used to reading the 24-hour hand as a GMT hand rather than reading it as a 12-hour hand. And of course, the lack of a second hand, the second hand is deleted. So it does take getting used to, but you do quickly become accustomed. For example, now the GMT hour hand is pointing at 21 for 2100 hours rather than pointing at the 9 o'clock position. So I do like the 24-hour dial, and also like that this uses a 24-hour GMT hour hand on it with a quick set function. So it does take getting used to, but once you become accustomed to it, very easy to use. So last, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So we're looking at a low tier piece. The price point is €472. I'm going to declare it okay quality, and I'm going to declare it okay value at €472. I can't say it's good and I can't say it's excellent quality and value because we do have some shortcomings. The main disappointment is the play in the male end link, as you can see, and also the sloppy bracelet. We've got play in the push pins. It's also a cost-cutting measure to be using push pins at this price point. At €472, to be good quality and good value, or excellent quality and excellent value, it can't have that level of play, and screw pins really are mandatory. The other thing is, they've made a mistake with regards to black PVD coating the butterfly clasp, because this is subject to wear and tear. They should brush satin finish it or mirror polish it, leave it as bare 316L grade stainless steel, because this is going to wear off and look bad. So there's room for improvement. The other negative, of course, is the play in the 4 hinge pins. They need to tighten up the tolerances. It's not a €100 piece. We're looking at €472. These kind of QC issues are not acceptable at this price point. So it's okay quality and okay value. I would like to see some refinement and female pivoted end links added to the bracelet to improve the fit. So bear in mind the shortcomings. I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration, but bear in mind the QC issues. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Akerfalk Aventyr 24-hour Vanta Black. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.